SLT Fibre and experience the power of fibre technology. Sri Lanka's only super fast internet connection. SLT Fibre. Call 1212 now.
Tonight, another in cuffs. Easter Sunday attack ringleader's brother-in-law arrested. It's all above board. Batiklo campus funding clarified.
We have reported back to the Inland Revenue Department every year, legal way we got the money.
Goodwill. Secretary General of the Muslim World League calls on chief prelates. Strategic expertise. Former Sri Lanka batsman Thilan Samaravira to assist New Zealand during their tour of Sri Lanka. All that and much more coming up on First at 9, this Tuesday, the 30th of July, 2019.
මුහුණ සති කීපයකට කලින් Fair and Lovely men ගෑවට පස්සේ මාක්ස් අඩු වෙලා ෆෙයානස් වැඩි වෙලා.
මාක්ස් අඩු කරලා ඔයාගේ ෆෙයානස් ස්ටෑන්ඩඩ් එක වැඩි කරගන්න. Fair and Lovely men anti-marks cream.
From AdaDerana, this is AdaDerana First at 9. Live from Studio 24 in Colombo.
Good evening and welcome to First at 9. I'm Dhammik Eknaika. Let's start with the local stories. The brother-in-law of Easter Sunday attack ringleader Zaran Hashim was arrested in Katuputha today. Identified to be the elder brother of Zaran's wife, he had undergone weapons training at the Nuwarelia camp along with National Tawhid Jamaat's leader.
The Colombo Crimes Division today arrested the elder brother of Zaran Hashim's wife from the area of Kakunagolla in Katuputha. According to police media spokesperson SP Ruwangunasekara, the 28-year-old suspect Muhammad Abdul Qadir received weapon training at the Nuwarelia camp along with the late leader of National Tawhid Jamaat Zaran Hashim. The Colombo Crimes Division is conducting further investigations into the matter. In the meantime, investigations into the complaint lodged by General Secretary of the organisation, Sinhala Ravaya, Venerable Magal Kande Sudatta against State Counsel Malik Aziz of the Attorney General's Department was handed over to the Criminal Investigations Department by the police headquarters. The Thera, in his complaint, which was lodged yesterday, accuses the Attorney General's Department of purposefully neglecting their duties with regard to the Easter Sunday attacks and calls for the arrest of the official in question and the former Attorney General. While giving evidence before the Parliamentary Select Committee probing the Easter Sunday terror attacks, the State Counsel Malik Aziz admitted that he received a document regarding the mastermind of the attacks, NTJ leader Zaran Hashim, back in June 2017 and that he did not take further action on the matter. Meanwhile, the Sinhala National Movement also requested an inquiry from the Attorney General's Department regarding State Counsel Malik Aziz.
Now, it was revealed today that the Department of Prisons is ready to implement the much talked about death penalty anytime if all legal constraints surrounding the matter are lifted. Addressing a media briefing in Colombo, Commissioner General of Prisons said that 2 executioners have already been hired. The President recently readied things to implement the death penalty. As the Prisons Department, we had to complete some physical and human resources necessities for it, which we did during the assigned time period. Many were curious whether the executioner was hired or not. We didn't disclose that information due to security reasons, but now I would like to say that we have hired 2 persons for the position. This means we were ready to implement the death penalty had the President given an order. Because the court is still deliberating on the matter, I don't have the legal authority to talk about it any further.
And there are
some who go on the pardon roll also, right? From death sentence?
Altogether, 470 there was a death penalty, and out of them, 36 number of around 35 for the death, drug related, and out of them, and about 18 number of confirmed.
Yeah.
Other rest of them appealed.
They are on appeal. So that means they go on presidential pardon? Or?
No, for the court appeal.
President Maithripala Sirisena expresses his objections over privatisation of state banks in a backdrop where there is much talk about the subject. Addressing an event held in Colombo today, the head of state insisted that instead Sri Lankan state banks must be strengthened to face the challenges of the future. Meanwhile, attending the same event, Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe emphasised the need to restructure the country's economy while providing more government assistance to local businesses.
A ceremony to mark the 80th anniversary of the Bank of Ceylon was held at the BMICH under the patronage of President Maithripala Sirisena and Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe this evening.
Our state institutions have been a burden on the public for the last 30 to 40 years while making profits. However, the poor of the country are affected by this situation, and these institutions, where corruption, weak management and faulty governance, as well as threatening demands of trade unions, have made an impact. All of these institutions are maintained by state banks. My principle, which has been and will be, is that all must be strong. I believe that state banks must not be privatized. Some are criticizing the government for the downfall of the economy. I would respond by saying that if you look at the savings of the Bank of Ceylon in 2015, it was 800 to 900 million rupees, whereas today the amount has increased up to 1,500 billion rupees. That means because of this so-called economic downfall over the past 5 years, the bank has seen an 80% increase in its savings. Must I argue any more after that? This is the result of just one bank under the proper economic principles. Private banks would also give you the same answer. We have earned money in this country and now we must utilize these monies properly. We must continue with the restructuring of the economy. Our banks and companies must come forward to contribute in this regard. Now, former Eastern Province Governor MLAM Hizbullah insists that the Batiklo campus cannot be taken over by the government even under emergency law. Speaking at a media briefing held in Colombo today to clarify allegations levelled against the institution, its chairman said that they would, however, like to work with the government. He emphasised that the funding process of the university is clean, legal and transparent.
We have got these funds officially from the Al Jufali Trust from Jeddah, Saudi Arabia. One of the biggest institution funding such type of education, not only our country, in the other countries, especially the Gulf area. One of the accepted institution by the government of Saudi Arabia. Officially, all the transaction, not one, 7 installment, within 2 years time, around 3.6 billion, that means $24.6 million came through the central bank, came to the Bank of Ceylon and remitted to our official accounts, and every expenditure we have reported back to the Inland Revenue Department every year, legal way we got the money.
This 3.6 billion, the loan or it's a grant?
Is a 100% loan. We have very clearly given the report. This is the financial viability. The report submitted to the Ministry of Higher Education in July 2016. In this copy, we have given all the agreements. When we submit this document, you can see in the first page itself, sum of rupees 695 million had been advanced 4th March 2016. And the second transaction, 564 million received 5th May 2016. BCSL expect all other loans pledged to be received as per the agreement entered with the lead lending institution.
So what's the return for the investor?
We are just returning his loan only, because according to Islam, interest is haram, completely prohibited. That institution provide like these funds to the higher education, not only our country, the many countries. From the trust, they provide the funds, we have to get back the funds, that's all. They will not involve any of our activity, very clear.
Now, the National Conference on Peace, Harmony and Coexistence is currently underway at the Nelum Pokuna Theatre in Colombo. General Secretary of the Muslim World League, Dr. Mohammed Ibn Abdul Karim Alisa attended the event as the special guest. The purpose of the conference is to promote the values of interfaith, peace, harmony, coexistence and tolerance among people in the country. President Maithripala Sirisena, Opposition Leader Mahinda Rajapaksa, several other ministers as well as religious leaders representing all prominent religions in the country participated in the event. In the meantime, Secretary-General of the Muslim World League, Dr. Mohammed Ibn Abdul Karim Alisa, met with the chief prelates of Malvat and Askariya chapters in Kandy today after arriving in the country last evening.
Secretary General of the Muslim World League, Dr. Muhammad Ibn Abdul Karim Alisa, who arrived in the island last evening, went to Kandy today. He first called on the chief prelate of the Malwatha chapter, Most Venerable Tibbatuavi Sri Sumangalathera, at the Malwatha temple.
The majority of this country, Sinhala, and the minorities must accept that. I think if both sides understand and work accordingly, such situations won't arise. The behavior of some people exasperates the majority. Some Muslim extremists have caused this destruction. I think it's you who should ensure such things won't happen.
Dr. Muhammad Ibn Abdul Karim Alisa then called on Diyawadin Lilme Pradeep Nilangadala at his official residence. He also called at the Asgiriya temple. Secretary General of the Muslim World League then met Chief Prelate of the Ramani sector, Most Venerable Napane Pemasiri Thera.
Now, on the 25th of April this year, the Board of Directors of the Millennium Challenge Corporation approved a 5-year Sri Lanka Compact worth $480 million aimed at reducing poverty through economic growth. This compact, however, is under much scrutiny and criticism from various parties, including politicians from the opposition. In this light, the United States Embassy in Sri Lanka issued highlights of the MCC Compact with Sri Lanka yesterday. These highlights attempt to allay some of the uncertainties Sri Lankans may harbour about the compact.
The 5-year $480 million compact of the Millennium Challenge Corporation seeks to assist Sri Lanka by addressing two of the country's binding constraints to economic growth. First being inadequate transport logistics infrastructure and planning, and the second being lack of access to land for agriculture, the services sector and industrial investors. The compact is composed of two projects, a transport project and a land project. The transport project aims to increase the relative efficiency and capacity of the road network and bus system in Colombo metropolitan region, and to reduce the cost of transporting passengers and goods between the central region of the country and ports, as well as markets in the rest of the country. The $350 million transport project has an estimated economic rate of return of 19% from the western, central, Sabaragamuwa and Nuwa provinces. This, the US says, will help upgrade physical roadway networks, modernize traffic systems and introduce policy and regulatory reforms. Meanwhile, the goal of the land project is to increase the availability of information on private land and underutilized state lands or all lands in Sri Lanka to which the government is lawfully entitled or which may be disposed of by the government in order to increase land market activity. The $67 million land project will initially focus on districts in the central, northwestern, north central and eastern provinces. The embassy says that these land activities will help the Sri Lankan government to create an inventory of state lands, modernize methods of valuing lands, strengthen tenure security for smallholders, women and firms, and digitize deeds records so that these are less vulnerable to damage, theft and loss. Together, the two projects are projected to benefit 11.3 million people, which accounts for 54% of Sri Lanka's population. The remaining $63 million will be used to support technical assistance, feasibility and design studies, project administration, monitoring and evaluation. These funds will help the government to effectively design, implement, manage and monitor the compact program. The embassy emphasizes that Sri Lanka will have the power to establish a local entity staffed by Sri Lankans to coordinate implementation by relevant ministries and departments. This entity will be accountable to a Sri Lankan Board of Directors comprised of 8 government officials and 3 representatives for the private sector and civil society.
The Supreme Court today ordered the Sri Lanka Medical Council to register 82 medical graduates from SITEM as medical practitioners within 3 weeks of time. The Supreme Court delivered the order considering a fundamental rights petition submitted by 3 graduates of South Asian Institute of Technology and Medicine. The petitioners had stated that the Court of Appeal had issued a writ order calling for the registration of SITEM graduates as medical practitioners, and this writ order was also approved by the Supreme Court. The petitioners, however, alleged that the SLMC is intentionally refusing to register SITEM graduates. Accordingly, the 3-member Supreme Court judge bench ruled that the SLMC has violated fundamental rights of SITEM graduates by failing to register them. The bench pointing out that the SLMC is not authorized to act in this manner and reminded that the Court of Appeal as well as the Supreme Court previously issued orders to register SITEM graduates. The judge bench then ordered the SLMC to register the graduates within 3 weeks of time and to pay $200,000 50,000 rupees to each of the petitioners as court fees. Charges have been served before the Supreme Court today against State Minister Ranjan Ramanayake over his second case relating to contempt of court. The case was filed against Ramanayake for allegedly making a controversial statement regarding the composition of Supreme Court judge bench hearing the petitions filed against the President's move to dissolve the Parliament last year. The charges were served before Supreme Court judge bench comprising Chief Justice Jayantha Jayasuriya as well as Justices L.T.B. Dehidenia and Madhur Fernando. The defence attorney told the judge bench that his client is ready to make an apology if the statement in question has inconvenienced the Supreme Court in any way. The case will be taken up again on the 2nd of December. The Central Expressway was scheduled for completion by 2020. But in reality, judging by the progress on the surface, that target looks to be far-fetched. What's more, Chairman of the Road Development Authority says that it will take 2.5 more years for the project to be completed in a backdrop where Phase 3 of the project has come to a complete standstill. We at First at 9 took a look at the current progress and the reasons behind the delays in the construction of the Central Expressway.
The Central Expressway is expected to connect Kadawatha to Dambulla via Kurunegala with a link to Kandy. The path to its completion, however, is marred by delays owing to delays in funding from China and Japan. The project, which commenced on the 14th of December 2014, is being carried out in 4 phases, with the first phase being a 37.09 km stretch from Kadawatha to Meerigama. The second phase is a 39.29 km stretch between Meerigama and Kurunegala, while the third phase between Pothuhara and Galagedara spans for 34.12 kilometers. The fourth phase is the longest in distance as it stretches for 59.30 kilometers, linking Kurunegala and Dambulla. It is estimated that the total cost of the expressway is to be approximately 200 billion rupees, but according to a COPE report presented earlier this year, the cost of Phase 1 and 2 of the Central Expressway has been found to be overvalued by 38.2 billion rupees. The relevant contracts are signed between the Road Development Authority and construction companies. When it comes to Phase 1 of the Central Expressway, a loan agreement was signed between China and Sri Lanka to the tune of $1 billion, with the Export-Import Bank of China covering 85% of the contract value. The Central Expressway was due to be opened to the public next year. However, speaking to First at 9, Chairman of the Road Development Authority Nihal Surya-Rachi clarified that due to issues surrounding funding, it is expected to be open in 2.5 years, while Phase 2 is expected to be completed by March next year.
The Central Expressway 1, that is earmarked to give to a Chinese contractor, MCC. So we are finalizing the funding now. We started the work long ago, but there was a little delay in funding because the amount is about $1 billion. That is the biggest fund we are asking from the Exim Bank. Therefore, there was a delay on clarification. So the loan has been signed, and now we are paying the local component, and we can do the work in an accelerated phase. We have done about 4 to 5% of the work with the contractor's fund. This project will take about 2.5 years more to complete if the phase is all right. When you come to section 2, that is from Meerigama to Kurunegala, it is a purely a Sri Lankan project. So that we have done about 75% of the work, and the local contractors will complete the work by next February, March. We were planning to complete this project by end of this year, but due to the things happened in October 26, 2018, then on Pasku Sunday, we had a lot of problems that hindered the project because we were suffering without explosives. Therefore, there is a delay in that process, and we are hoping to complete by March next year.
Phase 3, however, which runs from Meerigama and Kurunegala, have come to a standstill, as media reports state that the cabinet is preparing to withdraw the contract from the Japanese company Taisei as a result of delays in constructing an interchange in the third phase of the project. Taisei has informed the Sri Lankan government that if the government is to withdraw the project of the interchange in question, they would refuse to construct the rest of the expressway. The construction of the Central Expressway's third phase is funded by a loan obtained from Tokyo Mitsubishi Bank to the tune of $1 billion. Residents residing on the route of the construction area say that there is no progress on the project, and they are faced with issues pertaining to compensation for land which was acquired for the expressway.
සෑහෙන ප්‍රමාදයි.
There are major delays. Compensation paid to residents is also unfair. As far as we know, construction work from Potuhara Junction to Galagedra have not commenced.
කිසිම වැඩක් තවම පටන් අරන් නැහැ.
Construction work on the road has not taken place. They rushed us to give up our land and demolished our houses. Work on the expressway is slow. There aren't any construction work on certain sections.
When we inquired about the progress of the construction work in Phase 3, the chairman of the RDA said that they are still awaiting certain approvals to proceed with the project.
Earmarked to give to Japanese contractor, that is not yet finalized, and once it is finalized it will come to RDA for implementation. And due to some difficulties in commissioning the section 2, we have omitted and we have got the cabinet approval to omit a section, the interchange which were earmarked to be done with section 3. We have taken measures to delete from the section 3 contract, and the committees appointed for that are now negotiating as to how they could manage this deletion from the ongoing negotiated contract. There are methods, and I think these committees will come into some sort of a favorable solution.
Speaking to First at 9, Sudyarachi further noted that the government is yet to arrive at a decision on funding to commence work on Phase 4 of the project and have only obtained proposals from contractors. We at First at 9 attempted to contact the Japanese company Taisei to obtain their response over the development of Phase 3 of the project. However, our attempts proved futile. With delay of projects like the Central Expressway, there are few questions that need to be answered, one of which is what is the economic loss the country will bear each passing day, as citizens of this country are taxed to reap the benefit of progress.
Now, one of the two suspects who stole a van from Mattegoda died today after he was shot by the army in Panadura last evening. The incident transpired following a complaint lodged at the Kahatudua police pertaining to a stolen van by an armed group. The suspects were tracked down with the assistance of the van's GPS navigation system. However, the suspects were shot at when they did not heed orders to halt their vehicle when they passed an army checkpoint in Palliamankada last evening. One of the suspects who sustained injuries in the incident was admitted to the Colombo National Hospital, where he succumbed to his injuries. The second suspect, however, was later apprehended from Pingwatta. We have more news on the other side of this quick break. Stay tuned. Welcome back. You're watching First at 9. Now, Minister Counsellor at the Embassy of Sri Lanka in China, Alexi Gunasekara, says that the newly adopted foreign investment law will pave way to improve China's business environment and attract more investment from Sri Lanka. Speaking to a Chinese media outlet today, he further noted that if Sri Lanka is to reap benefits from the Belt and Road Initiative, it would be pivotal to align Sri Lanka's development strategies with the Belt and Road development strategies.
Now, if you look back 10 years ago, we didn't have that much of people doing business with China. But after 10 years, I can see that a lot of people have started doing business with China. At the same time, some of the business people, they have actually opened their offices in China. Especially, I will talk about that, especially recently introduced the new investment law. With that, I'm quite sure with the Sri Lankan people getting to know about this new investment law, more and more Sri Lankan people will start investing in China. I'm quite sure in the near future China will become most important trading partner for Sri Lanka, not only as a importing destination, partner even for Sri Lankan exports. So what we are trying to do is we can incorporate our Sri Lanka development strategies with the Belt and Road development strategies. With that, Sri Lanka can develop. So Belt and Road can be a tool for inclusive development. Now what we are looking is, we have the infrastructure. Now we need to improve our other sectors with the assistance of China.
The Exporters Association of Sri Lanka urges all government institutions to execute and fulfill all possible trade facilitation initiatives, paving way to create ease of doing business and move forward towards its national single window. Addressing the 22nd annual general meeting of the Exporters Association of Sri Lanka yesterday, newly elected chairman Chris Odimel was rather critical of the government's lack of intent and commitment to increase exports.
We, the Exporters Association, in the recent past, has done an exhaustive study identifying key areas for improvement and action and published 2 valuable strategy documents. Though some of our proposals have been well received and even incorporated to the national budget, we are disappointed that the proper implementation of same has not been done. We have not seen the intent and the commitment in the part of government to fire all guns in order to grow the exports. I urge all government institutions who are to facilitate exports to fully understand Sri Lanka's obligations to the Trade Facilitation Agreement signed with the World Trade Organization, paving way to create ease of doing business and moving forward towards a national single window on which we have all invested much time. Arbitrary increases of charges due to ad hoc procedural changes cannot be afforded without the proper value addition to the supply chain. These measures will only make Sri Lanka uncompetitive.
Whilst noting Sri Lanka's geographical advantage in its endeavours to become a maritime hub, Chairman of the Exporters Association Chris Odimel emphasised that Sri Lanka has failed to capitalise on opportunities presented with regards to the Colombo port.
With over 75% or more coming from transshipment volumes from our neighbouring countries, other than for the port handling income we make, we haven't capitalised on the possible trading platform that would have enabled us to generate additional export revenue. Development of entrepôt trade and multi-country consolidation, free zone facilities and aggressive offshore trading are game changers. We must understand these concepts and develop the necessary procedures to make it more feasible for business to operate.
Now to give you a market update, the Sri Lankan shares snapped their 5-session gaining streak as investors booked profits. The all-share price index ended 0.72% weaker at 5,951.75. Meanwhile, the Colombo bulls posted a turnover of 2.2 billion rupees, nearly 4 times of this year's daily average of about 635.7 million rupees so far. We now have Achudan Srirangan from First Capital Holdings with a brief report on today's market performance.
The secondary market yield curve continued to remain broadly unchanged, while overall market witnessed a thin volume ahead of the tomorrow weekly bill auction. Equity market ended in a red, reversing the 5 trading session of witnessing gain as a result of Land Brewery and Sri Lanka Telecom, the main contributors to drag down the index by 0.72%. The market witnessed surge in the first 30 minutes of trading, reach an intraday high of 6,045 and sudden dip of the day low of 5,930 within a mere hour of trading. Thereafter, the volatile trend will be seen and the closed at the day at 5,952, losing 43 points.
We take a look at what's happening around the world after this break. Stay tuned. Welcome back. You're watching First at 9. Now, at least 57 people have been killed in a prison riot in Brazil, which saw rival gangs battle for 5 hours. Officials said that gang members from one prison block invaded another part of Altamira prison. They added that 16 of the dead were decapitated and the remainder suffocated after part of the prison was set on fire. The structure of the cell allowed the fire to spread quickly, resulting in the death by asphyxiation of some inmates. Officials said that the 2 prison officers taken hostage were soon released because the goal of the attack was to strike at rival gang rather than at prison guards. The prison in Altamira has a capacity of 200 but was occupied by 309 prisoners. However, officials denied it was overcrowded. Violence in Brazilian prisons is not uncommon. The country has the world's 3rd largest prison population of some 700,000 people, and overcrowding is a widespreading problem. Now, a Pakistani military aircraft on a training flight crashed in a built-up area in the garrison city of Rawalpindi early on today, killing all 5 crew members and 13 civilians, setting off a blaze that left a pile of smoking rubble. A statement from the Pakistani military said that the aircraft was on a routine training flight when it crashed, but there was no immediate word on the cause of the accident or the type of aircraft involved. Military and civilian rescue workers took at least 12 injured civilians to hospital and extinguished the fire, leaving the smoking ruins of a house which appeared to have borne the brunt of the crash. Now, in sports, Minister of Sports Harin Fernando today revealed that none of the current members of Sri Lanka's coaching team will take part in the New Zealand's tour of Sri Lanka next month, as the matter was conveyed to him by Sri Lanka Cricket. In the meantime, former Sri Lanka batsman Thilan Samaraweera will assist the current New Zealand coach Peter Fulton in order to help the visiting batsman to acclimatise the spin-friendly climes of Sri Lanka during the 2-match Test series set to get underway on the 14th of next month. The 42-year-old, who averaged over 48 in tests, has previously worked as a batting coach of Bangladesh as well as Sri Lanka. He was also appointed as the consultant coach of Australia during their tour of Sri Lanka in 2016. The tour of Sri Lanka is also Fulton's first tour as the batting coach of the setup. New Zealand, however, do not have a good record in Sri Lanka, winning only 4 out of 15 tests. And that's it from all of us here at First at 9. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.